Shades of Benga Online presents highlights from the story of Kenya's popular music in the 70-year period between the end of the Second World War and 2016. The series draws its inspiration from the definitive book Shades of Benga by Ketable Music.
Welcome to Shades of Benga web series. Tonight, we'll be discussing the history of gospel music, from choirs to the contemporary music of today. To play us in is Biri and the One Team Band, performing Adamu na Eva, originally by Mary Atieno and the IFC Jericho Choir. My name is Alo Obala.
I know we can remember this melody. Are you ready?
Tunda lile walilokatazwa na Mungu walikula.
One more time. Tunda lile
walilokatazwa na Mungu walikula.
Everybody. You can wake up and we can dance like this, ladies and gentlemen.
Lokatazwa na Mungu walikula.
I'm excited to share that today my panel is full house. Today I actually have 4 panelists, and I cannot wait to just share the experiences with you. First on my panel is Reverend Dr. Pete ODERA. Dr. Pete ODERA is a seasoned musician who is renowned for his contemporary gospel group, Heart. He also has several solo projects under his belt, including Drastic and Take It By Force. He has toured extensively in Africa and beyond. He founded Wakenya Pamoja, a foundation propagating hope for a new generation. He currently presides over Waterbrook Networks, a ministry effort to reach urban youth in Africa. Rev, karibu sana.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
Next on my panel is Helen MTAWALI. Helen MTAWALI is a renowned actress and music teacher with renowned skills in advertising, leadership, and education. She's fondly remembered as a judge in the music show Tusker Project Fame. She is the mother of a Frizzo, a band she put together with students of Daystar University. The band made a tour in the US where it ministered to multitudes countrywide. Helen MTAWALI, karibu sana.
Asante.
Our third panelist is JAPHETH KASANGA. JAPHETH KASANGA is a renowned musician, and his career spans over 30 years as a producer and publisher in East and Central African regions. He is the director of Kasanga Music Center, Kasanga Music Shop, and Hitscore Recording Studio. Besides being awarded the Order of the Grand Warrior, Mr. Kasanga is a founding director of the Kenya Association of Music Producers and has served as a board member in the Kenya Corporate Board, among other authorities in the Kenyan music fraternity. Mr. Kasanga, welcome.
Asante.
My final panelist is Richard Esther Njau. Richard is a multi-gifted individual with experience in media as an advertising creative and a rapper, among other capacities. His celebrated project and brand, Cleaning the Airwaves, aims to shape culture across generations. Richard? Karibu sana. Yeah, so I just want to throw my first question across to everybody. I want to hear everybody's opinion on this. What exactly is gospel music?
I think we'll be trying to answer that question for as long as we are alive.
Right.
Because I don't think that question began even now. From before, we were trying to define what is our faith? What is faith? It's like trying to ask what is faith. But allow me to say maybe there's 3 expressions of gospel music. One is definitely what I call the lyrical space, where the creative, whoever is writing that, is expressing the faith, or whatever it is that they believe through the lyrics. And I think that's one aspect of it. Another is the style. We can't ignore that there's a thing called the gospel style. If we listen to some of our, even our older songs coming out at the time of independence, I'm in fact in specific reference to Daudi Kabaka's Harambe Harambe. If you listen to the channel that just come before it ends, that's a gospel. It comes from hymns. It comes from the hymnology, that particular phrasing. So there's something about that that there's a sound to it. But finally, I'd say is that gospel music is also about the spirit of what the song is about, and all those are levels which cannot be ignored. There's the spirit of the song, which really comes from the life that the practitioner is doing. So many gospel artists who are singing this thing live it, they believe it, and so it comes alive to them. So I think, to me, it's all of those 3 things to varying degrees, and I can't say that the person who's got it 100% is the one who's got A, B, or C. I think if all 3 of those things marry together comfortably, then you can have what we call a gospel song. Its expression can come in different styles, whether the styles are current popular styles, which go as far back as rock or whatever it is, to traditional folk music. Can we make traditional folk music gospel? So these are some of the questions that I think, in being a musician, a musicologist, a producer, these things are constantly in tension for us to try and express. And I think it's a question that has no real answer. It has, in my view, an evolving answer.
Okay, fantastic. Helen?
Great. I think Reverend Dr. Pete has mentioned every aspect of it. But I know when I was growing up, I grew up in this church and fellowship where they would pretty much define it by how you walk, how you talk. And I remember words of one woman who came and told me, Helen, asha kupenda wibo kushida Mungu. So ideally, I say, what were her definitions? Because ideally, I thought I was a musician expressing myself through gospel music. And part of what was right is nothing to entice the body. You know, so it has to be a certain style, like he says. So thinking of the mind, body, and spirit, it has to all be something that is presentable, something that songs that will not make you or cause you to banjuka. It's not like by Coco anyway. Yeah, so but it's something that will actually help people to think straight and help people to think about God.
Right. Yeah. Mr. Kasanga, what is gospel to you?
Yeah, for me, I would say that gospel music is a communication or a way to express the word of God using a song, irrespective of the tune, irrespective of the genre and the style, but of course using a certain familiar tune that people would determine it to be gospel music.
A-star.
My definition of what gospel music, I didn't learn it from listening to other gospel. It was sort of up-down. So for me, it's a star, the light that leads to the light, like the star that led the wise men straight to Christ. Christ is the light that shines up bright. A star, the light that speaks of Christ. Like, it's come down to that. Gospel music is, from the perspective that I had entered into it, was a message that I was given to be a light to people, not for myself, but so that others may know the light.
I want us to talk just about the advent of gospel music in Kenya. And as we speak about it, especially Mr. Kasanga, I really want you to chip in on this, because initially when the gospel music came out and it became, gaining traction, there's also foreign influence in that we had the South African beats and we had, such things. So do you maybe want to just give us a insight on that?
Yeah, I remember when I came into gospel music, there was not much of individual singers. There was, the church is dominated by choirs. And especially we used to listen to music from Tanzania, Kongoro, AIC, Mwanza Town Choir, and other singers, Arusha Mjini. And for coming up as a single artist, that time it was difficult. You would be deemed to be a person who is showing off. Some of us got chased out of the church because we were meant to be showing off, and especially when we got into recording, it was like we are becoming commercial and commercializing the word of God. But we were able to just penetrate and make others also learn after us. And this is where we just came in a small way and started, because we would only listen to people like Ken Rogers, Jimmy Reeves. There was no examples around of gospel music. And therefore, I would say, well, we tried. There were people who were there quite earlier before us, and the styles and genres were mixed. We could use tunes from South Africa, from abroad, and so on. But I would say we were influenced more personally by South African tunes, because that's what we were listening to most times around here.
Okay, and at that time, like you said, choirs were the big thing. They were coming from these churches and they had the support from the churches. Why didn't you go the choir? Did your church have a choir at that time? Yes,
and I began as a choir master, instrumentalist, and we even started recording with choirs. But then when I chose to do it on my own, then I was rebellious. We are wasting the chances for choirs to sing, and you want to sing on your own. So it was difficult. So choirs were there, and we were part of those choirs. I was a music teacher at AIC Jericho, and I also had another recording choir known as Mlango Joint Choir. and many others, and we were competing. My wife was in Tudor AIC, and they're also singing, competing and singing and recording music for church, for church people to listen to.
And as you speak of you and your wife just coming up and doing a solo act, we can't really go far without talking about Sing and Shine. And this was revolutionary at the time, because we had never had something like this where gospel artists would come out as solo artists and just, shine, show their vocal ability. And so do you want to tell us a bit more about the show? And Helen, I would really like you to add on to this, because, we also know you from Sing and Shine.
Yes, I remember that time I was working at Daystar University, and Helen was there as a young girl. But besides working, at some point we were classmates, but she was also part of my backing team. Nikamtoa shamba kidogo, but I thank God from where we came. So KBC was the only station that time called the VOK, and I had a talent that they felt they needed to use. So they would come for me at Daystar, take me to Joy Bringer to Sing and Shine, and I was organizing the music, the musicians around as a master musician. I remember Pete coming one time at Joy Bringers, and I was told to listen to his music, and his music did not sound the way I was familiar to.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah, it was a bit different.
A bit.
Unfortunately, my producer, Karanja Kimwero, also did not identify much with his music, because we had been used to a type of music. But anyway, I was part of the Sing and Shine, where we would record single artists, Mary Atieno, and everybody came and we recorded them. That time, I think we chose to promote the single gospel artists as opposed to the choirs.
Okay.
And that is where now the public in Kenya came to know that, an artist can sing on his own. And from there, we progressed to Joy Bringers, and we were running Joy Bringers and Sing and Shine concurrently. And that program helped to shape up Kenyan gospel music. And even Tanzanians and Ugandans would come here to be recorded and promoted through VOK.
So Helen, did you also start from church?
Me, I started from Kasanga. Anyway, yeah. From church, my church is Anglican, AIC, no.
African
Anglican.
Inland.
No, Anglican Church. The
ACK.
Anglican Church. CSDA, Anglican Church, yes. And I also grew up in the choir. My father was a choir master,
Right.
choir director, and my father worked with Kasanga at Daystar.
Right.
So when I was a student at Daystar, he said, "Mtoto yangu mbona wewe sisikani na huyu Kasanga?" Alafu so Kasanga apparently at that time spotted out my talent. He performed in chapel. And then I was like, hey, then I think I also did. And then he was like, I want this girl. I want to sing with this girl. And I owe my life to this man. Because my singing, having known the choir style, directing style of my father of no, and then went to Kasanga with Mulango John choir, and then now he started nurturing talent of people singing. He used to say that I have a degree. There's a style I used to dress, and I used to love brooches. And he would say, "But ile degree." Okay, so I learned so much in terms of directing. He would direct choirs, and I watched that out. And he would travel with us to different places, just the three of us, his wife and I, and I see the way he actually merges our voices together, and we sing. And he had a band, from the band into CD singing, where you actually now present a track, and then you sing alongside the track, performance track, etc. I learned so much that I would say, or term that I learned that by osmosis. Because he would not instruct me and say, Helen, we do this like this, but just by observation, because that's the highest way, the greatest way you can almost learn everything. That gave me tools and powers to be able to know and to listen to how harmonies form, how his style of harmonization form, and then shaping out this whole shebang of gospel music. And today, I would say that I'm an authority. People will call me and want to listen to how their music can be, well, there's now the trend of the praise and worship, where you want to say, hey, Helen, come and train our people on praise and worship. Much which I owe to his style and also owe to some of the experiences I had through that time, knowing how people listen to music, how harmonies form when you're singing, what is considered good music,
Right.
what is considered godly.
Right.
Yes, so a lot I owe to the, to the background that I had with Mr. Japheth Kasanga and my dad, because my dad was a choir director. So knowing that and knowing how people value, where people place their values, you listen to different audiences. I traveled. I tell you, there was no hotel I had not traveled to. And every place, hata kwa State House. Si pesa yangu ya kwanza nilipata kwa Kasanga ilikuwa 10,000. That was like 100 million to me, bwana. And my father saw that, was like, "Ay, Kasanga, can you live long because umepatia mtoto wangu 10,000?" 10,000, that was a lot of money that time, by the way.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a big salary. I was like, make it. Make it. But today, even humor, by the way,
Right.
this guy is very humorous. He is super humorous. Except now in front of people, he zips up. But, but a lot, I watched him, even his style of teaching. I watched him do that. And then, of course, there's that you that comes out with it. So in the teaching arena where I probably got experience from Desa University, where I owe a lot to him. And I want to say that even the music industry, it's shaped quite a lot because of the way, what we put out on Joy Bring Us and Sing and Shine to make people be able to appreciate gospel music as a choir and as, because they even started sections where now they embrace the choirs, but also those people who sang as individuals. Except now today,
Right. Yeah.
hapo niwezi sema chochote.
Yeah. And then now Pete came with Heart, and you guys shook tables.
Yeah.
You guys, you overturned the system.
Yeah.
And what was that all about? Was it rebellion or
No,
what
this
happened?
was, and I told Tabu before, this was accidental. My goal in coming into gospel music was to bring a message, very much like what happened to A-Star, something that transformed my life and to make it relevant to my generation. So I grew up on Michael Jackson, on Mangelepa, on Franco, on James Ingram, on Lionel Richie. And that generation of young people would tune into Sing and Shine, which would come on a Sunday afternoon, or late, towards the evening of Sunday, and would disengage. They're disengaged. And I thought, how can we engage this generation? And part of what Japheth is saying is absolutely accurate. So I come on Sing and Shine, and I'm not dressed like them. I don't sound like them. I don't sound like your typical Mwanza town choir. I don't even sound like that, now the established sound that's coming out of Voice of Kenya. I'm bringing something completely different because I'm bringing my history, my personal history. I grew up, my uncle was the band leader of Black Savage, and he was the original writer of the song Kotbiro. So I grew up with Black Savage in this very auditorium, and they were playing, the funk and rock and folk music and doing this. So I grew up with a very eclectic idea of what music should be. And then I realized something. I said, you know what? My faith needs to shine in that arena. It's okay to sing in church, but then there's people who are not in church. How can we bring these people into church? And so for me, music was a tool to win my generation over. And so as I began this journey, I started to attract the kind of people, and I think I can't speak for myself alone because, you see, this is coming upon a platform. So without Japheth Kasanga and Sing and Shine and Joy Bring Us, the technology and the platform is not present for us to now say, now let's build on top of that. And if somebody had explained this to me at the time, I might have gotten it. But there was no one to explain it. Because like Japheth said earlier, mentorship was rare. There was few people who had experience in that space. So as I came into that space and began to really experiment and say, let me put out these songs. The young people, I'm throwing in rap, I'm throwing in reggae, which was not on Sing and Shine. Rap was not on Sing. This rap was a very new phenomenon. Reggae was associated with the Rastafarian movement and weed smoking and that whole idea. So how can you make this the gospel? But I said, well, you can hear my songs, and these are Christian songs talking about Jesus, the love of God, and the passion that I have for him and that if this generation could just know. So the young people said, this is what we'd like to hear. This is really cool music. But the wazee wa kanisa, the pastors and the bishops said, this is going to completely, this is taking the young people into the discos, because that kind of music was only played in discotheques, what we call clubs.
Did you sing? Yeah.
No, this is before. This is even before Yayo. So we're now doing songs like I had songs like Drastic Measures, no time. So it has a rap in it. I was singing these reggae songs, and so it's really.
Where did that song take you to?
No, that was not us. That was Safari.
It was somebody Safari.
That is Safari, who now is the next generation before we got to before now A-Star and the hip hop. So I remember we had a Heavenly Party. Was this dancehall song? Come go with me to the Heavenly Party, and I do this. It almost sounded like what's his name? Shabaranks. Some say me mad. Some say, so I'm doing this thing. And we were out here in the garden at the Lions Alliance Française when there was this huge concert. And suddenly we came and our uniform is not suits. Our uniform is color. And I had my earring on and I had my hair in braids. And suddenly the young people say, these guys are cool.
With, yeah.
I can identify with this.
Guys,
And suddenly we became a phenomenon with the young people. And a complete other phenomenon with leadership. Leadership said, nope. This is not what we accept. We were banned from our own churches. We were banned from VOK. Our songs were not allowed on VOK.
Really? Okay.
And literally, and the Fellowship of Christian Unions, along the way I formed this band called Heart. And so Ted Josiah was in that band. The late Salio Yuge was in that band. And Esther Mwindi was in that band. And so here are these fashionable, really cool looking young people. With earrings and everything. And they're singing something. This is a phenomenon. This is a sight to see. I mean, if you go back, what Heart the band look like now is what we looked like 25, 30 years ago. And that somebody looked at this and says, no, it couldn't compute. Coming from a place where Mwanza were in robes or in a suit, black and white, official color, like zebras, black and white. You were black and white. If you digressed, you were double-breast suit, which is green or something.
Okay.
But so we were no longer this formal. There was now dancing, because now we had dance troupes, and they'd come. And if you go back to choirs, there was no dancing. And I don't mean swaying from left to right. Literally, putting a groove into dance steps along with this. Mm-hmm. So that creative expression of our faith, really rubbed from a cultural perspective, was an upheaval. And not just from a church perspective. This was an upheaval because this was saying something about fashion. Remember, this is the time of the Moi regime, where there was strict observance of the law. If you went outside, this was it. And Moi loved choirs, and he couldn't have loved us. So this is a big deal. So we're coming in early 90s, and it's just really throwing everything out of kilter. But I can't say we were alone, because there were other groups who were trying to do this. And this is where now you have younger groups like Five Alive, who are with us, and Safari, who are now offshoots of what we do. They saw what we were doing and said, I want to do this. So this now became a movement. I didn't start out trying to start a movement. It became a movement, and after a while, it grows bigger than you. And it was bigger than me, and suddenly the whole movement, because now it's broadcast, it now becomes, and young people like subversion. So you're now no longer saying, why are these people being banned? Let's go and check them out. So we started, there was a lady who opened up her restaurant at the Barclays Plaza, in the lower ground floor of the Barclays Plaza, now the Absa Plaza, not too far from here. And every Sunday afternoon, he said, you guys come, since you've been banned in other places, come and play. So every Sunday we would play in that place. And then we had a star search. And then there was other bands that now came from. We found another band like us called Limit X, who are from Uganda, but now lived in the UK. And we said, if these guys can make it in the UK, and they were winning awards, they were called the Boys to Men of the UK, but they were really from Uganda. And suddenly there was an entire movement, not just in Kenya, not just in Nairobi, but in Kenya and East Africa, towards this embracing of this new style. So it wasn't just a religious thing that was happening. It was also an emergence of a new generation of young people. And this run parallel with what I am now calling the political move of the clamor for multi-party politics. It happened at exactly the same time.
Okay.
So this, you can actually draw a parallel. This clamor for multi-party was also mirrored in the religious world with this clamor for a self-expression of this new generation. In short, this is really just setting, diving off of where Kasanga was coming off, because I think we were caught in a moment. I just happened to be privileged to be right in the center of it. The controversy, every controversy helped us. And I hated in fact, somebody was just saying, oh God, what did we do? What did we do? But we're getting all the wrong attention. We were even called, I remember at that time, in the midst of this, there was a commission for devil worship. And I don't know if you remember this.
Really?
Yeah, in Kenya, there's a commission that was set up to study what is happening with devil worship. We were called devil worshippers. And so these labels were now all on top of us, even though nothing. I was just a skinny Jaluo boy trying to express his faith. And there I was caught in the middle of this upheaval. And it had its good times, but after a while, I think it started to wear on some of our compatriots. And so there was also a lot of fallout as a result.
Kuna dawa. Yesu ndiye dawa. Kuna dawa, kuna 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 dawa.
And that was Kuna Dawa, performed by Bire and the One Team Band, originally by Esther Wahome. As we move and we move into, into Asa's generation, when they start, they have this ground where they feel like they can walk because people like you, like had crawled and, and they clamored to get these things done. And Asa, you are the only one who did not start in church as a musician. Yes, so
first and foremost, it's a privilege here because I call him my great-grandfather. My grandfather, my father is not here, and myself. That's how far apart we are. I mean, there's myself, the son maybe, and say Kanji Mbogwa, who I consider as my father in the music industry. Kanji's got to give credit to ODERA. In fact, ODERA opened up for that, and then now you can hear the Kasanga. So you can see the difference in generation. I didn't start off in church. I'm a bit different in terms of my upbringing, even for the youth my age. One, because I came from a very blessed family in terms of financial. So I'm what guys called Ubabi. Then number two, I was very digitally savvy. I entered digital literally very, very early. So, but there's no difference in terms of young people. Loved music, have always loved music, was super obsessed in music. You know what teens are and how teens are. My parents were very saved, so I have a huge collection of gospel music that I couldn't stand. International. I'm talking about, we're talking about 700 CDs. I liked two. I remember them, Dawkins and Dawkins and Out of Eden. International CDs, even because I'm comparing, I wanted to be a producer. So very key, Jermaine Dupri kind of music is producing. I know Rodney Jerkins. In fact, that's why I like Dawkins and Dawkins, because Rodney Jerkins produced. From a local perspective, Ted Josiah was down the road from where I lived, and he was doing something with my mom. My mom was in BAT, so I would get Kenyan First Chapter coming in, production that I absolutely adored and loved. So as a producer, I knew what good music was, and I became a producer. I've gone to piano school, so I have that understanding. I'm thinking of music writers, I'm thinking of Babyface, I'm thinking of I'm not comparing myself Kenya-wise. I'm like, good music is good music. You get what I mean? Right. So I had, and as you can tell, because I've told you that bringing English was very strong for me. Though there was just something about Ted Josiah and packaging Kalamashaka. That was very huge and crossover for me. I fell in love with Swahili Nation. Five Alive White, I loved them. But Swahili Nation, I got obsessed because I really liked R&B a lot. And then move into now what Ted Josiah was doing, Kenyan First Chapter, Kenyan Second Chapter. And then now I go abroad to South Africa. South Africa was the first time, first I'd gone to the UK, came back, then went to South Africa. South Africa was a turning point because I saw Africans living off music, making some crazy money, but also excellent sound of their own. So when I came back, that's now when I would come back a lot is when now the Kenyan explosion of the ESAs, the 2001 era. But again, I have no gospel CD. I don't even know a single gospel Kenyan musician. ODERA met him once when I was trying to tune a chick and bumped into him at G21. And I was like, yo, this CD was good, but also met up a group called Milele. Two CDs that had Milele, such a huge impact of me. Right. ODERA's It's a one day. What's it called?
It's a new day.
It's a new day. It's a new day. It's a new day.
Place.
Not one day. It's a new day.
Yes.
Again, you see, I can remember it because melody. I really was obsessed with melodies. So when I gave my life to Christ, first of all, remember gospel music is kama huna kuja kwa Mungu. Kama sina naenda kwa babangu, who is my dad, because he has money. You're asking my folks. So when I got saved, I wanted to enter the industry as a gospel producer to help people upgrade their music.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I'm not hearing anybody rapping like the one I'm hearing. I'm listening to Kanye, I'm listening to Tupac, I'm listening to Jay-Z, I'm listening to SBIG, Bone Thugs and Harmony. There's nobody doing that sound. And even from the gospel international, it's so deep. Leviticus 7:12. I'm like, yo, I can't intermediate with this. So the weirdest thing happens to me. Entering the industry was God telling me, you're trying to be a producer and trying to show people how you're Kanye, you can rap, you can produce. Stop that. I want you to rap. And I'm like, Mungu sina sauti ya kuongea. I'm hopeless on the chordless, mimi skillless. Mungu akaniambia kama yule Moses, Who gives man his mouth? Who makes him deaf or dumb? I am the great I am. Put this mic in your hand. So my entry into rap was literally, and it's always been, I call myself an SO, I'm a sent one. I am a sent one to the people. And God says, go and speak to your boys. Go speak to the rich and teach them about me. Because people think the only gospel that is needed is one of lack financially. But truth be told, there's this, everybody needs this guy called Jesus, this amazing person called Jesus. Shock on you, when I entered the music industry, rapping in English, first of all, close your eyes for a moment if you know that he died. Throw your diamonds in the sky because the rock's alive. I literally was writing to a Kanye West instrumental. That's because, again, quality of the rap music. So in one of my songs says, I was moving to studio trying to get a record deal, but producers kept on saying, A star, not real. Name it. I was going to very many different studios. People kept on telling me, don't rap in English. But I'm like, my Swahili Giuliani, thank God for him. I taught him English, he taught me Swahili. We would interpret each other's.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is, even when I came out and recorded that song, after going through every studio, a lot of studios in this country, please know there are not as many as there are right now. So when I say a lot, I'm talking probably about 10. This is 2004 into 2005, or 2005, that time. It is, even after recording my song, I don't take my song to the conventional stations, Hope FM, because I used to listen to Capital. So the first place that this song got played was Capital. And then everybody's looking at me like, oh my God, DJ Eden has played your song. But I'm like, see, that's what you take music. I hadn't been boxed into the lifestyle of the gospel musician.
Yeah,
I learned that along the way. I was just like, you have a song, you distribute it here. You have a song, you distribute it here. God has told me to go and do missions. In fact, I said, God, I need friends who are born again to teach me this. And that's how I ended up at Kijiji Records, which again was a privilege. And I told God, I want friends to teach me how to be a Christian, because I didn't know. All my friends are not born again. We're not. You get? So that's how I ended up at Kijiji.
Right.
Not because I went for a concert and I looked at them. In fact, I told my boys, I'm never seeing you guys again. I'm going for a place called Nairobi Baptist for a concert, January 5th, 2005. And I go there, and what happens? There's a group of people performing, and I say, yo, these guys can play better than me in terms of the instrumental. People like Aaron Rimbui were on stage.
Right.
Dana Seda was on stage.
Really?
Nema and Talelo was on stage. Now Silayo, Blackman. This Kanji and Milele, I'm like, listen to this sound. So that's, first of all, their sound, and then the spirit. And I loved what he talked about when he asked, what is gospel music? It's a second bit of gospel music. Not even a second bit. The core of gospel music is spirit. The spirit of the people on stage attracted me so much that I never went looking for another studio. I told God, this is my home. This is where I want to be. And also one last thing that I have to point out. There's somebody who in that era was making music that was like, this is quality in the mixing, the mastering, because remember I'm a producer, the production, DNG. And also the relevancy of the message. DNG had, and so I'm like, where this guy has recorded his song, I want to find it. That's what led me to Kijiji, because DNG had recorded music at Kijiji Records. And the style was the style that I was listening to of Kanye West, but now Kenyanized. That first song that I released is what exploded, because who doesn't tell you gospel musicians or DJs were also listening to all these other stations. So they started calling me to distribute my song, yeah.
As you're speaking about the spirit and the spirit of the music, and also in relation to your songs being premiered on Capital FM, eventually it became such a popular thing that we had songs like Kuna Dawa playing in clubs. You know, they say Satisa when people are nafukuzwa, that's when they play Kuna Dawa. And even today, as you come, you will find a lot of this clubs, the bars, they really play a lot of gospel music. So how does that work? Is it something that's acceptable, or something that has always been acceptable, or is it something that's just come up, and is the spirit still there?
A gospel song played in a club, I don't know, because I thought Jesus came for those who are sick. So I first interacted with that phrase when I was, again, in this Guatanero of Tukutendereza people, and they were like, in fact, my mom heard the song, Usinipite mokozi leo unisikie, unapozuru wengine. She said, what? I said, Akot, you're listening to music of dunia, but it has Christian words. Sima yo kitu, sima. And then I went Zimmered, of course, and then went and listened to it again. And I was like, ooh, see, Nipite Moko, this guy has actually changed everything so that it can suit the ear of somebody who finds some of this church music boring. And for me, that song ministered to me, and that's when I think I met, through your music ministry, I met Shwaib Olemundule. So I was like, then what's the spirit in this? The person who wrote this song, what were they through? I met even the guy who sang that song, and I was like, so which God does they serve? Do they serve? For them to actually be able to sing like this and minister to me. And my mom is ministered to by, ooh, si nipite moko, si. Then kidogo kidogo we have kuna dawa played in bars. What kept ringing in my mind was Christ came. For those who don't know them. Then I see Pete ODERA and I see him dressed up, and I see Limit X. I say, sasa watu wote ni Mungu ni wanaomba. Sasa ndani yako na plumb line ya kusema kwamba hii ndio kwenda binguni, hii haiendi binguni, this one is not, like that. So I said, you know what, my spirit speaks to me. Then I bumped into Tusker Project Fame. Then I was in fire. Dada, umetoka kunywa pombe alafu nakuja kutuhubiria hapa. That time I'm like, you know what, I realized that those people who were in Tusker Project Fame needed God more. So I found a ground for preaching them. By the time I was principal, all the staff were Christian. And when we got into Tusker Project Fame, no one was even allowed to speak about the gospel. So I was like, then my presence there brought blessing to Aching Abura, who had started singing gospel, but at some point left. But for me to be in that show was a blessing to Aching. If she would be alive, she would tell you, the late. So I'm like, Christ came for those who are sick in their heart. So if your music ministers to their spirit, then it's the right kind.
I want to say something that's really interesting. And I think Richard said something that's very important that I think we may be missing. Living in the 90s, this is pre-FM stations. There was something called an FM station that was introduced. So the introduction of the first FM station in 1995, 1996, transformed the way we viewed even broadcasting. There's another aspect there that I think Richard alluded to but didn't say, and it's the movement from analog to digital, the introduction of the internet. These are big changes that happened in the space of in the middle of the 90s. So the 90s, 1990, when I started out, you have compact cassette tapes and records. By 1999, when there's we didn't have huge concerts. We didn't have huge concerts until the late 90s. Mid-90s, we're now having thousands of people in concerts, which we'd never seen before. We'd never seen this thing before. The emergence of FM stations increased the audience incredibly. But by 1998, 1999, until 1999, we did not have a gospel FM station. And this is something that I think may be missed out. So there was an apartheid system where every time we would try, and Richard is saying this, we try and go and get our music played on the secular stations. If it wasn't for KBC, my music would never have gone out there. Right. I remember having arguments with 98.4 guys. Richard he's so blessed. He went in there and he got his music played. How many CDs did we give the guys at 98.4? How many breakfasts and coffees did we buy to the radio station managers and so play our music to try and help them understand what we were trying to do? And they wouldn't do it because they said there was no commercial value to it. And I remember I sat down with a then managing director of Pepsi Kenya. And I said, I know something you don't know, and I need to tell you. He said, what could you possibly know that I don't? But what I knew is that there was an entire world that was untapped, that he had no idea about. And this is a thing that was going on, that what we were seeing is this underground world suddenly emerged. And I remember John Karaoke, a writer, acerbic writer, and he would always give, if he wrote an article about you and it was negative, that's it, you sunk. But he wrote an article about heart. He said he'd never seen anything like this. And that gave people ears, because then the commercial now started to pay attention to this. Wait a minute, what are these guys about? So by the time A-Star is coming on the scene, hip hop, what A-Star didn't say was that there was a group before that I mentored and I tried to produce and bring out called Rap Community.
Okay.
And they were the pioneers. Before Kalamashaka, there was Rap Community. So whatever genre of music that is now banging was first of all pioneered by gospel artists. And I think that that's the contribution that we gave culturally to the country. And people like Big Kev, Big Ted, Jimmy Okungu, MCLC, what are you talking about? Wahoo. These were the guys who were working with. Wahoo Kagwe, who's such a big name now. These were the young teenagers that were emerging at that time to try and say something. But they were resisted. They were resisted both by the church and by commercial radio. Kirk Franklin, thank God for you, Kirk, helped us so much, because then out came GP, are you with me? Stomp came out and was number one in all stations, secular as well as Christian stations. And then a little later, Mary Mary with Shackles. So the idea there is that we were always waiting for the West to say, it's okay to do this. So this expression, this African expression was always second rate. So we're fighting a cultural battle to accept this battle of who are we as Africans? What is the African gospel? What is our identity? These are all layers of things that were going on. I was not conscious of this at the time. But so that's where the battle was being fought. So I feel that I couldn't have put together a better panel, but look at this. This is history right here. Because after A-Star, there's an evolution. There's something after this that I feel we're part of a process of the progress of a letter that's being written, sort of like history that's being written in sequence.
I want us to talk about the technical aspect of music now. When it came to the production, we're talking about the producers as gatekeepers, and Rev and Kasanga and Asa. We all agreed that producers are not what they used to be. And Kasanga, actually, I just want you to start by telling us the difficulty you had getting into a recording company. Let's start from that. Yeah.
Actually, I should have started way back in 1973 when I walked through the church for my first time to play music.
Right.
I had been playing music from the secular world before. I was a young boy, around 10 and below 15. And a guitar had been bought by our local church village, but nobody knew how to play. So guys came for me. You are the only star in the village. Come and play for us. And I went, Nagofia yangu, of course, looking like I'm from the bush. Unfortunately, the guys could not stomach me. They said, don't come to church like this, throw your gofia. And while I thought it was a joke, one of them just
slapped it off.
Akaipiga ikaanguka, and there I was ready to fight. And of course, we were told not to fight. But then I met Christ, who saved me in that early time, and I was okay now. And I learned how to play gospel music. There was nobody now fighting me anymore until I came to Nairobi. And I thank God you've mentioned River Road, Nairobi Aju music. I'm privileged to have started music from the other side, where money is. Yeah, as I was working for Daystar, and as I was leaving, in fact, I had to sing them a song, because our professor Talitwala used to tell me, Kasanga, you want to go to the music industry, and we know in Africa, music never pays. In Europe, yes, but you just married the other day, you have a small baby, and so on. But I was convinced here, because to me it was a call that I go and I'll be fine. So with the little money I was paid, when I went to KBC and the other places, all musicians now of that type of, you called it conventional music, came to me for production. And so with that little money, I began cycling it back to the production, promoting them. And this is where, you know, my song, Maisha ya Mwanadamu ni kama maua, started. Maisha ya Mwanadamu, ayoni kama maua. And there was Ahadi ya Bwana. Ni ahadi ya Bwana. So both songs were played even in clubs, as you talked about clubs. And it's because the KBC had given that music a lot of airtime. And, you know, remember the presenters of the time were Salim Manga, the old guys, and they liked music. At our Islam played all that music. And it helped us to get some little money, and we were able to make good money and invested that money back into the industry. That's where now we saw a number of Kenyans also coming because we were producing their music, mentoring them as a producer. So I became more of a producer than a singer. And I produced their music as well. And I had good money to also use it on air. Yes. Yeah, so as opposed to their music, ours we got supported financially because the people with the buying power were more of the older people.
Right,
and
okay.
they would buy our music.
Okay.
Theirs, they were struggling, maybe in the shows and so on. Walking into the studio in 1978, I was told, you can't record, bring your music in a cassette. So we had to go record music in the cassette. We gave it to people. It went, I don't know, all the way to State House, and I saw a guy being sent to come and vet me, listen to us, my choir from State House, called Boniface Muganga. And it ended up to be a whole process until after 1 year is when we were allowed to record and still pay. And then we were given our own records. It was very difficult. You could not just walk into the studio the way you sing and you are allowed to record.
Yeah. There were a handful of studios actually at the time because there was Polygram.
Yes.
There's maybe 4 or 5 studios.
About 4. Yeah. Polygram, another one is around, and Andrew Crawford. And also you had to find something they are calling chapa, a certain label for you to be allowed to produce a disc. And, you know, you pay for it a lot of money for you to have your own. And the music was monitored. But then when it came to cassette, that is where now pirates came in. The time we produced Maisha ya Mwanadamu, it came from Dubai. We couldn't even sell a lot. Because now I think there were systems to manufacture such music in an easier way than before.
Yeah.
So we now started fighting with the pirates all over in Kenya. Others are coming from Uganda, neighboring countries in boxes. And so we couldn't do much thereafter because piracy now was the thing of the day.
Okay, and Richard, you are a producer, and you said that is where you were leaning towards. And earlier on, as you were talking about the things, you said there's almost no role for a producer nowadays to a certain extent. It's almost as if it doesn't exist.
Not really. Let me say it in this sense. There's a lot of beat makers as compared to producers.
Right.
So there's a lot of, and also it's because of, a producer needs to take time with an artist, and the artist needs to have a vision, and the artist doesn't like being told, no, wait. My first song after recording Close Your Eyes, I was told by my producer, wait. I'm like, I have my whole 16 songs of my album in my head. First and foremost, that's different because it meant that I had written my songs, practiced my diction, practiced my ad-libs, practiced even singing in terms of how I was going to perform. My first album had 16 songs. First and foremost, I was even doing an album. Those are bodies of works that people don't do these days, when it's been shortened to EPs and things like that.
Right.
But also the discipline to understand. So a producer doesn't just make a track, you sing, he gives you a master and you disappear. A producer is able to say, no, this song needs a chorus. This song needs this. No. Your message on the second verse, your diction is wrong. How about let's change the instrumental because this is where this song fits in the body of the work. So it takes time and molding. David Blackman, Mudhami, hands down. I give him so much respect, who was a product of Daystar University as well. And you see also the influence of church. Church, a lot of the producers who you know play in church because church teaches discipline. You're there every Sunday, you have to be on time. So that process of, and this is globally, but the best producers globally have come through the church because there's some discipline, weekly discipline. A habit is formed in 21 days. Every single Sunday you're being made to come here on Saturday to rehearse. So that producer then comes back and becomes a producer in a studio, and they understand discipline, they understand certain habits and cultures that you're not supposed to be doing in the studio. This is not a play place, this is a workplace. So how Blackman chonged me, let's just say, I came with my lyrics, yes, but he chonged me. He's as much, if not a bigger role in my album than I was, because he was already seeing this should be your first single because the audience now needs this. The internet for me at that time was coming in, so there was feedback that we could put onto this platform called MySpace and receive feedback, or High Five and receive feedback. K Crew was there at the time, so I've got my, oh my God, I need to say this. You want to know how gospel became huge? How gospel, what we say, took over secular? K Crew. While radio was why? The youth are the ones who determine the direction in which, it's not to say that nobody else plays a role, but the youth are the most. So the youth determine, and of course the youth have time. So what was happening? The K Crew had two missions. One, K Crew wanted to spread the gospel by all means necessary. So what do? You're banging on school doors. You get? And they're going together with the worm on the hook, who are gospel musicians.
Gospel artists, right.
Us. So what happens? We are being tagged along. We're going to 3 schools a day. We're going to schools across this country. Radio stations are not playing us, but these kids are playing us, and they only get to listen to us. Another way which I made revenue, because I traveled abroad, I learned about a thing called singles. So we're touring with Zaidi Mziki, with Christine Della, to all these schools, and we're getting access. So we were like the first internet. There was no barrier. There was no radio to stop us that. So, and remember, the producer has also made for us a performance track. So we're not going there and singing on top of the songs because there's a certain excellence, because producers are the same people who play in church. Live is not difficult. I was the first, minus rap community, sorry. When I started rapping, I'm rapping with a band because that's what we do on church. But out here in this world, it was foreign. What is this thing of you're rapping with a band?
Right.
But let me say, going to those churches, going to schools, churches giving you access to 300 people, 1,500 people, 600 people every Sunday. And I'm selling a CD for 100 bob. I was going platinum. I was doing 100 CDs a Sunday in schools, and I'm selling these things, you get. Right. So my music penetrated, and a lot of other people started copying that thing. Because they're like, oh, we don't have to wait for a whole album. We can just put on an immersion CD. What was being used to pirate their music now became the vehicle where we put our music on to distribute. It became so big until in 2002, Capital FM, not Capital FM, for the Kisima Awards, the judges are asking, who is Esther? Who is Esther, and why is he being nominated for Best Hip Hop Rapper? Who is Esther? But the fans, the people in high schools, this is the only CD they had when we would go and buy. For a lot of these people who may be watching this interview right now, my CD was probably the first CD they bought from that generation at that young age, because I wasn't selling for 500 bob, I was selling for 50 bob to 100 bob. Gospel young people at our time, thanks to the work that these guys had done, and explaining gospel to maybe the owners of the school and all of these things, they opened up the doors that by the time K Crew went and asked, can we come and do gospel in this school? For sure, you guys come in. It was very difficult for secular musicians to enter schools till today as compared to
the Christian gospel.
COVID, of course, has changed things. But I'm just trying to show you a different way where doors may have been blocked for us not entering mainstream media and radio. Other avenues were opening up. And I've not even entered the internet yet.
I'm talking about the quality. Let me say there's someone missing here. When we talk of a producer, we have difference between a studio producer and an executive producer. Right. A person who has a mind of the market industry and has money to finance the recording. Now, this is a person who is able to identify which studio producer will do a good music and pay them well to do a good quality music. And then after this producer is over with the artist, I take the artist alongside me now into the market. And we are able now to contract people in the media houses to play music. That thing is missing now. And that is the kind of mentorship that was there before during our time, which is no longer happening. And the musician would walk up today, use his computer, walk into the studio,
bedroom,
and record, and nobody
Erect the
is
studio
there to
right
tell
here.
them.
right here. Yeah.
In your hand.
Yeah, so, well, that is missing, and that's what we used to see in South Africa. I also traveled to South Africa to learn about music and even copyright, and that is what I saw, and that is what helped the musicians there to grow, because an executive producer has also sources of distribution, or contracting that music in other to sell people to tell in other countries.
Yes.
When Japheth started to talk, he said something, but I want to say, remember I said, this is an evolution.
Yes.
Right.
This thing is not static.
It's constant growth.
And the change between, say, 1978, when Japheth first went to Polygram Studios, and 2018, between 1978 and 1988, the change may have been fractional.
Yeah.
But between 1998 and 2018, it's a complete world change, because the leaps, it's grown in such leaps and bounds. There's so much we've missed in between. But I must say that technology is important. The move from analog to digital completely changed the game. The move from AM stations to FM stations completely changed the game. The move from the entrance of the mobile phones and the ability, first of all, it was the satellite and then mobile cell phone technology enabled, and the move from now just having a phone to becoming a smartphone where everything is. These are huge technological leaps that have made music distribution, consumption, it changed. I mean, I took a little bit of a sabbatical. When I came back, some of the guys who were playing music in church said, in fact, it was a black man who produced one of my biggest selling songs, Mwingine, that he said, boss, the way you used to do music and the way music is done now. I wasn't even away for a long time. And I really wasn't away. It's just that I wasn't as involved. But you will blink your eyes, and in 2 years, the kind of evolution that the music, the way music is consumed, because now, you have a different way of consuming music. Hardly anybody buys CDs in terms of now the...
That's what his business.
He was actually... say, in fact, I want him to say it, because there's this myth that people say that, no, it's just in Nairobi where we don't buy CDs. But I was having the conversation right now with Kasanga, and he actually said it. And maybe in terms of CD consumption, your shops, are you...
Yeah, CDs, cassettes, record discs.
Actual things.
We are now moving from sale of CDs into other things in our establishments.
Okay.
Because CDs are no longer selling. The systems, the players are no longer being manufactured.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is a totally closed chapter.
And this is a big one. What then are people outside Nairobi, how then are they consuming gospel content?
Possibly they're only watching it through the online systems.
I'd say there's three platforms. There's online, there's on television, which is still a big way, especially for gospel music. It's still a big deal. I know this because I was on a TV show only recently, and I'm getting inboxes from 17-year-old kids. Well, I mean, these are my daughters, younger than my daughter's age now, saying, I really was blessed by what you did. But then the other platform that many is what Esther said, is live. Any given church in any of our major cities will have a big name. So in Nairobi, you will have, you have your Kambuas, you have Mercy Masika, and so on. In Kisumu, you have somebody else. In Mombasa, you have somebody else. And all of these are coming out of those centers because it's now possible. It's now possible. The live experience, bar COVID. So before COVID, you had all these places. You could go walk into any church and find international quality music being played. This, when I was coming out, I mean, when I got invited to CBN and TBN and the major American stations, they were surprised to find you sing so well for an African.
Right.
Yeah.
So that now when you're opening for Donnie McClurkin and CeCe Winans and so on, who are these Grammy Award winners who now, and then working together with, some of these Grammy Award winning writers, producers, musicians.
Right.
But the idea was that we are now at par. There was something about bringing the quality that digital helped us to leap from having to buy a $400,000 SSL mixer to just jumping through Logic Audio and so on, to a place where now your music is at par with those who are international. And so I think it's important for us also to see that the technological advances helped. So as far as distribution goes, I mean, this is it's a double-edged sword, because now you can reach anyone, anywhere, everywhere, in Japan, Mauritius,
worldwide.
Now.
Yeah.
Today, now, what we're communicating now is going all over the world. At the same time, it's not necessarily being curated. So I can be saying something true and positive here, and this truth becomes a reality. But there can be somebody in the next building who can say something and is exposed to the exact same audience.
Right.
So I feel it's a double-edged sword. But I must say, and I need us to understand that we're at a place where everything is in flux. This is an evolution. We'll be able to look back 500 years from now and say, wow, this is what was happening. We're sensing this upheaval. And it's not just an upheaval that's a Kenyan phenomenon. This is a global phenomenon where we're talking about what's the future of gospel music. Are we even thinking about the future of the church? People are beginning to question the future of the church.
Right.
Beginning to question. These are some of the philosophical and deeper questions that we're needing to address. Relevance to postmodern generation, where before, when Japheth was coming out, he could say, believe in Jesus, and people are, yes, But we now have an African generation that's growing up and say, believe in Jesus, and people are saying, but what about? People are coming to us. So there's a need for us to evolve to a more intelligent approach to what it is that we're trying to do to communicate to our audience. And I think because of the life-giving force of the message that we're giving, it is imperative that we change. It is imperative that we transform and start to communicate with people, not just using the tools of communication and technology that's available, but using an intellectual jump where we must go to the place that the audience is. In the same way that A-Star was able to communicate with a generation of people who loved rap, in the place where Japheth and Helen were able to communicate to River Road or downtown Nairobi. This evolution means that now people have come to a place where they have a different understanding. We must evolve to that place where we can speak to the generation that's now listening and saying there's a place. Because of what the gospel has done for Kenya, because of what the gospel has done for the world, this is a message of hope. It's a message of life.
Right.
And I think that it's not just, for me, certainly, it's not just about music and putting some chords together. Anybody can do that, but it's about saying to this generation, there's hope. There's life even after this life. Can we begin that conversation about that? And not necessarily having to cram down this legalistic thing about you have to change your life, stop wearing this kind of clothes, and there's a tattoo on your whatever,
Yeah.
There needs to be something to say that there's hope, there's life, because how can you tell somebody you're going to hell when they're already living in hell? This is what I've been trying to do, is to really say to people that there's hope. When I say to people, I smile. I'm not saying this because everything is hunky-dory. I say this because I sincerely believe that with my faith plugged into the right place in the Word and in the living God, it can bring transformation to your life.
But also we need to remember that now we are communicating to the globe, not necessarily just the village,
Yes,
and
an
the four
international
corners.
audience. Yes,
It
it's an
is on
international.
whatever you have. See what happens in churches today. We have everybody cameras, and you're not just thinking of the person within the four corners. You're thinking of the people in the globe. So thinking of quality, so quality comes up, and also knowing that as you shape your message, it has to be understood by everyone, everywhere.
Right.
No matter how simple it is or complex it is.
I love it.
Yes,
Yeah.
everyone is listening to you.
So now I want us to touch a sticky subject when it comes to any kind of business. Is there money in gospel music?
Bwana Kasanga can answer that very well.
Yes. Is that because earlier on when we were speaking and you said something, there's a lot of money somewhere, but it's not going to the artists, and especially since you're in the copyright board, that should be a very interesting question for you to answer for us.
Yeah, I think with regard to sale of records or music, I can talk for the past and say, yes, there used to be a lot of money, especially from sale of music around River Road and all over in the country, but which is no longer there now. Unfortunately, now my generation and the type of music, we are now being left behind as the Nairobi Aju takes over the market, because the technology has overtaken us. But on the other side, now they know how to make music, and they're making good music. And a few of the channels that are available are like the Skiza platform, and also we have what we call collective management organizations. Currently in Kenya, we have Music Copyright Start of Kenya, where I am currently as a director. There was the Kenya Association of Music Producers, which I founded, and PRISC, Performers' Rights Society of Kenya, which are societies affiliated to other societies in the world, such that where money is collected is supposed to be passed through the internal structures to anywhere, and you can receive your money from wherever you are. What may be lacking is maybe transparency within our institutions, and also structures, which Kenya Copyright Board is working on to be able to ensure that now money flows directly to artists, either through the Collective Management Society of Kenya or other means. And I would say there are people getting rich through these channels. If you know, like this guy would know how to get connected all over the world. But we are praying God to help us create transparency and credibility in our local societies. Because like when I got there some years ago, I've discovered there's a lot of money, millions that can be distributed to musicians. But we need, better ways of monitoring, so that where your music is played, it can be captured.
Right.
Because media these days is the one that is being used a lot to be monitored for musicians to get money. We also use other means to monitor music, which is not through media, by sampling around and collecting money. So I can encourage musicians to also register with the CMOs, collective management organizations, and because we are still working on perfecting them. And as soon it's going to be a good channel of making money, in addition to the others now that are in existence.
Can I chime into this one?
Yeah, please.
This one I'm extremely passionate about. So first and foremost, I'm going to say something that probably you wouldn't have expected. Never has there ever been an opportunity like today for gospel musicians to make money like it is now. Right now, everything has aligned for gospel musicians, people who create good quality value music, to make more money than ever before. And it's a couple of reasons. Number one, it is the world is looking for hope. Hope, and so value is in three ways. Value is in like this conversation we're having. This is education that has been packaged into video content and people are extracting value out of this. That's why people are watching till right now.
Okay.
This is value we're giving them.
Right.
Second value is positive content. So positive content is content that people love. And thirdly, it is inspirational content. Now, gospel music falls in all of that. So, number one is the content of value, yes. Is there demand for that content? Yes. Number two is the digital infrastructure. Is there infrastructure from value to be transferred from one person to the other?
Right.
There is. So when we think in a country of things like M-Pesa, you realize,
Even money
can move.
Yes.
That's why it's called currency. It flows. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Flows, yeah.
So understand this, that the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure for global value to transfer. When you're talking about the diaspora sending money here, it's using Sendwave, it's using PayPal, it's using blockchain or cryptocurrency, it's using all of these different ways.
And it's on the spot.
The reason why people are not going to make money is because they're trying to do it the way they've always been doing it. Let me just say this. Again, let me even say the globe has shifted to our need and our want for African content.
Right.
So you just being African and black is God placing you at the perfect opportune time. And then to make matters better that you've got positive content, you are the diamond that people are looking for. But if you still have a BC, before computers mentality, where you're locked on to still wanting to go and create tips, sell CDs, and go and distribute to 300 people, I promise you, even the ones who want to buy cannot buy because they don't have CD players in their car. We have so much inspirational content that people are looking for. I'm so passionate about this financial thing because I am seeing it happening. And I'm seeing people going down because they are waiting to go back to pre-COVID. It's like a baby waiting to try and go back into the womb. So you're going to have to start selling infrastructure to people, and yet guys are saying, I have a mobile phone, I'm willing to give you value if you give me value. So what I'm trying to make you understand so passionately is we are in a new world. This world already exists. And those who are playing in that world, we are not even bothered with MCSK. Let me, and I don't mean that in an offensive way. He's not the, I'm just saying I have direct access to my consumer. There's no middleman who wants to interfere with me. To interfere with my chums.
Yeah. Can I now speak from an educationist perspective? Pretty much these ones are like short term, what you can get now, and maybe a little, you know, like extended for long term. But the worry of the parent is there a career? And one of the things that people have called me for to give talks about is, can we get money out of this music and what now they have labeled as talent? So this is what I tell parents and probably the kids who are probably about to finish their Form 4s, and they're like, so can I look at this in a different angle? Can it make me live? Can I earn living out of this? So I tell them music is actually, that's a genius. It's a genius. You're a genius if you are a musician, because I don't know, if you look at the way musicians think, we think faster than anybody else. Because of the way the mind is structured. First, it's because if you are a musician, you're exposed to 5 different disciplines that you can actually grow, and careers can develop up to 67 different careers from the 5 things that I've mentioned. Music itself, and a musician, there's no way if you're a musician, akuna beat. That's why it pretty much explains why you are a musical, and musicians are called the gifted because of the different things they do. So, dance, hakuna vile utakuwa na 2 left legs, even if you didn't know how to dance, somehow you'll find a beat. There's also drama. Musicians are very expressive, they know how to use words, they know how to create life from the words. So if you want, you can actually explore that. Miles the late said, explore your potential. There's a lot of potential in the gifted. Next is creatives. We are called creatives because look at the way we dressed up. We know how to combine colors. And from the musician's mind, there's a lot they can create. Yeah? That's why he's Reverend Doctor. And I don't want to go into that. There's something about initiatives. Musicians are great initiators. And musicians are very versatile. Musicians are people who can innovate. Last but not least is writing. And if you explore those 5, if you're thinking of money long-term, parents, bring for me kids up to 4 years old in my competition. Why? Because if you start training them at that level, you have established already careers for them. So if you're thinking money, not just for the now, but for the future, to shape up how somebody chooses their careers, you have up to 67 jobs.
Wow. The gospel music of today, you know, what we hear on the radio, what you see on TV or on YouTube, on social media. How do you feel? Where are we at? Is the essence of gospel music dying? Because we're talking earlier again, and I said sometimes nowadays, unless you know the artist or you know the voice, or you hear the lyrics, and maybe after like the chorus, you may not be able to tell if it's a gospel song or it's a secular song. Even the videos, the music videos are, you can't really tell the difference. So where are we at in terms of gospel music? Let's start with you, Pete.
Let's start with me.
Yes, with you.
I will sound like a broken
I
record.
know. It's the wrong question to ask.
I will sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
Evolution.
Yeah,
Evolution. We are evolving. I think a parent or a pastor sitting in my current position 30 years ago would have been looking at me and saying, there's no future. There's no future.
Right.
Because I didn't look promising. I had an earring on and I had my braids on and I was skinny. I didn't know I didn't look like I knew what I was doing, but God had called me. In this mess somewhere here, there's people who God has called. And I feel some people are learning through the mistakes that they're making. And some are learning very loud and very public lessons from this, because now we have the mistakes I made in secret 30 years ago because there was no internet. Now people, these guys, they're making the mistake and it's being recorded.
Yes.
It's being
live.
recorded.
Yeah. So I feel before, I'm a little bit careful to say that there's no hope for it. For sure, the one that's in the public eye there's a lot, let me just say the one that's coming out now, there's a lot of negative stuff that's coming out. But that to me isn't really a function so much of the music itself. It's a function of a greater cultural problem with Kenya. And Kenya's institutions are fractured. Kenya's fabric is fractured. We're a highly traumatized society who has sought to deal with our problems in various ways. So when we see these young men and women getting up and trying to parade themselves with these expensive cars and say all the kind of crazy things that they're saying in the name of the gospel, there's a parallel that's going on in the church where we have preachers who are doing the same thing.
Right.
And so there's of course the lack of mentorship, of course, but this is Kenya's problem. Kenya's problem with lack of mentorship is not just a gospel music problem. It's a general problem that we have a fragmented and fractured society that's saying something. So in that sense, music and Christian music is a reflection, a prophetic reflection of who we are. So if you want to see what Kenya is like, Embarambamba. If you want to see what Kenya is like, look at what's happening. Look at what's happening to these gospel musicians. That's a prophetic message saying this is where we are. And that's really saying, find me, help me, heal me, fix me. So as a senior in this space, I can't say I'm young anymore. I'm over 50, so I'm looking at it and I'm saying, there's something that can be done. And I've decided that what I want to do is stretch my hand to the next generation and give leadership and guidance in the direction that next generation can go. So my goal is to then say, how can we extend our hand and create a bridge for the Gengeton generation to come up and say, we need to be established, where you can have confidence, where they can come to a space and say, I'm accepted. Because we've had this rejection. Why does Kasanga have to go through rejection? Why do I have to go through rejection? And then East have to go through rejection. And then the Gengeton guys say, this is a pattern of rejection. We need to heal that rift and say, no, we need to draw a line in the sand and say, these are our children. I'm going to stay with my kid. If my kid soils their pants or their diaper, I don't say this is not my child. I say, let's change that diaper. Let me love this child enough. Let me own this child enough to then say, I'm going to offer a hand to this person. So I think enough and a lot has been said about what's wrong without even properly understanding the history of why it's wrong. We forget that this was a country that has been gone through trauma that has never been addressed nationally. We have not yet addressed post-election violence. We have not yet addressed the clashes. What has that done to us spiritually? There's no real Truth and Reconciliation Commission that has addressed this thing with honesty to then say, let's bring healing. Without that healing, there's so many dimensions to this thing that the gospel cannot be honest, because the church also has been dishonest with dealing with those things. So of course we'll have a dishonest expression. Of course we're going to look like hypocrites. Of course these kids are going to come because they see us. This is what's happening. So then they're now a reflection of who we really are. And this is the embarrassing thing, is that sometimes we look in the mirror and we don't like what we see.
Right. Helen, parting shot?
Yeah. There are so many truths you've mentioned there, but there's somebody who said, confusion is the beginning of wisdom. It's not scriptural at all, but there's some truth in there that the more confused you get, the more wiser you become, because you now have everything exposed to you, so you have to make your own choices. My prayer is that, as Reverend Peter said, that it was about time that we give the right mentorship to those who are in our hands. We mentor them the right way. Amuzungu said, you know what? If you mentor somebody and change their life, that is just like you living. So there's not much we can do until it comes to our hands. And for those that come to our hand, let's create positive, positive awareness, positive impact, change their lives for the better.
So I want Esther to go first before Mr.
Please.
Kasanga can. Yeah. He can close the chapter for us.
You can't just end like that.
Yeah.
The day Obama was being inaugurated, myself and 6 other people were in a room. And that day was my first evolution as a gospel musician. And it was, we're in a room praying and having a serious conversation with God, with our mentors, Kanji and his wife there. And it was so hard because I was going to stop being known as a star, the one who sings Isaiah 7:14, God with us, yes, Matthew 1:21, you shall name him Jesus, to starting to say, busy, busy, blah, man, I'm so buzzing, stress-free, guess who's back? No bugging. Dee-dee-dee-dee-da, brought a few friends along, my 300 chit-chat crew. Ahoo. We were becoming a group called Chit-Chat.
Yeah.
Out of instructions from God, with very clear instructions on what to do, what to sing, where to go, how to do it, and he even funded it. That changed from I didn't change as a person. In fact, if I did probably become a better person because I was more in the faith. But the backlash that I got from the gospel music industry as the leader of that chit-chat group was so hard and so killing. It was the first time I had understood what Peter had gone to, because thank God I had mentors always around me, shielding me. Their backs had arrows. I didn't know. Thank you so much. Why am I saying this? It's because to the exterior world, when we're singing buzzing, buzzing, we looked like we were gospel musicians who had completely lost the way.
Yes.
But the fruits were not lying. The schools that were opening doors to us, the Brook houses, were not opening up doors to K-Crew and the rest. The schools that were opening up to us, even internationally, and opening up markets to us, we could not have gone saying in the name of Jesus or close your eyes the way we want. And that's the first time I understood this whole thing of new wineskins. Now, with that understanding, I have been very cautious about opening up my mouth to what I am seeing happening in the gospel industry, which outrightly looks like madness. The same madness that looked like when Abraham was going to kill his son. Where are you going? I'm going to kill my son. Why? God has told me. I've become, that's why I keep using the word sent one. I consider myself a sent one. I get instructions and I do. So who am I to say, just because it doesn't look in the way that it's supposed to look, it doesn't even sound like the way it's supposed to sound, that I am to start telling that person, no. I realized the blessing that I had having mentors around. And therefore, did I pass the baton? The baton was well passed to me. It may have not been well passed to Pastor Pete, it may have not been well passed to the Kasangas.
It was not passed.
Yeah, but for me, it was given so nicely to me. And it's only in hindsight and later on that I realized, I'm talking about this, I realized maybe 5 years ago, how easy my journey was being a gospel musician. Mavuno gave us money to go and do albums. You know, they gave us venues, they gave us band, they gave us everything we needed, organized tours.
You're so blessed.
What am I trying to say? When I realized that the baton had been passed to me, but I hadn't passed it on to the next generation, in the same ease that it was, it's why I started cleaning the airwaves.
Mr. Kasanga.
Yeah, with regard to the future of gospel music, as you said, I know there's a bit of confusion currently as to the direction it is taking. Because of a different beat, each person is taking their own, and it's like there's no mentorship to shape the young musicians. But I would say I think there's future. There's a great future, especially when you look at what is happening currently. Praise and worship music is taking a certain platform that is appears to be a direction to help gospel music. I've witnessed a person receive 25 million within the platforms that I am at once as a money generated from use of music. So if that happened, it is not more than 5 years ago or 10 years ago, then it means packaging ourselves well and also helping to mentor our people, especially the young musicians. We would be added for a greater time in terms of music, and there will be growth. And the church also needs to help musicians to grow without discriminating, because there are churches that feel this beat is the holy beat, the other one is not a holy beat. And then you find there are musicians who cannot get a chance to minister. I would say music is music irrespective of the genre, but as long as it is talking about the word of God, it is preaching, and it is acknowledging Christ as a savior.
I think what has been standing out at the end of the day is just evolution. We need to grow, we need to transcend. There's a transition that's happening, and we need to accept it, embrace it, and just walk along with it as our artists continue to grow, as the industry continues to grow. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have you in our panel. This has been such an enriching discussion, and our honest hope is this doesn't end here. You know, as Easter continues with CTA, as you continue, you know, with the Waterbrook Ministries, and as you continue to teach, this conversation does not end here. This is just the beginning of a revolution in terms of gospel music. To play us out is Bire and the One Team Band, performing Mwema, originally by Masi Masika. I have been your host, Alo Obala.
You can clap like this. So this is to you, Laura.
Nitakupa zaidi, ishara kwamba unanipenda zaidi. Hivyo nishaelewa, sifa nitakupa zaidi. Na siwezi jizuia kusema wako wema, sio kama najigamba, unanitenda wema. Na siwezi jizuia kusema wako wema, sio kama najigamba, unanitenda wema.
journey through Shades of Benga continues. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on our social media platforms for the next episodes. Shades of Benga, the book, is available in all leading bookstores in Kenya. Get your copy for this and other stories in full.
Mambo vipi?